It's Mo. It is July 20th, and it is my last day, my last hour even, in Ohio. And I had originally thought that I was going to add my book haul into my Ohio vlog, but I think that vlog is going to be too long, and I have too many books here to talk about, so I'm just going to make this a separate book haul. I don't usually do book hauls. I don't love book hauls. If you know me, you know that, but I think it's worth it when you do something fun, when you go somewhere. Probably like many of you, books are my souvenirs a lot of times. They're the thing that I'm going to buy and to keep with me as like a remembrance of the trip. And in this trip, I think that's definitely true because I found 2 used bookstores that were really awesome. And who knows if it was going to be a longer trip, if I would have found more. I went to a couple of Goodwills, and one of them was really good for books. So I think it's worth it to break my haul rule and do a haul just for this. The first books that I bought in Ohio were A Night Without Armor, poems by Jewel, and Madam X by Jacinda Wilder. I bought these both at the first Goodwill that I went to. I've been seeing the Jewel poetry book everywhere, and I thought I had already read it, but I wanted to just pick it up and read it again if I had not, or read it for the first time if I had not. I did read this on my trip, and it was a reread for me because I did read it like probably in the early 2000s, just after it came out. And then I picked up Madam X by Jacinda Wilder, which apparently is like a domestic New York, maybe smutty romance, I'm not sure. Because it's called Madam X, Madam X is a term, a phrase, a name that's dear to me. So I just wanted to pick it up because I thought it was fun. I will probably be reading this book at some point, but it's not like a high priority to read it. Next, I went to the first of the used bookstores that I found. They were both the same used bookstore. It's called the Bookshelf, and they have quite a few of them around this area of Ohio. They're all donated books, so you can go and you can donate any books you have there, and they sell them for really cheap. They're $2 for mass market paperback, $3 for trade paperback, and $4 for hardcover. All children's books are $2, so it's a great price. You can definitely pick up a lot of books, and I did. And the good thing is that all the proceeds go to a literacy program for adults. So I don't think it was very religious. It wasn't outwardly religious if it was, but it seemed like a really cool charity to give to and a really cool way to spend money on books. So the first book that I got there was Castle by J. Robert Lennon. I don't know anything about this. It just looked interesting, I think because of the deer on the cover and in the title on the spine. But when I picked it up, it looked like it was a haunted house book, and I thought that would be fun for spooky season. We just came off the end of Summerween, so I'm in that spooky mode. I also got The Oxford Murders by Guillermo Martinez. This is a translated mystery. I got Incensed by Ed Lin. I read an Ed Lin book earlier this year and I really, really liked it. This is his series that takes place, I think, in Taipei, in Taiwan. And this is a murder mystery detective series as well. This is the second in the series, but I've never found any of his other work. So I just picked it up. Hopefully it's okay to read them out of order. Then I also got A Man's Head by Jorge Simenon. I've heard of him before. He is an Italian author, I believe, and this is another translated work. This work was translated by Jeffrey Salisbury. And The Oxford Murders was translated by Sonia Soto. I've just been looking for more murder mysteries from countries not British or American. I got A Year of Marvelous Ways, which looks like it has barely been read, by Sarah Winman. I haven't read any Sarah Winman yet, but I'm interested in quite a few of her books, and $2 for mass market paperback. And then I got Karen Nelson Douglas, Goodnight, Mr. Holmes. I read a cat cozy mystery by Karen Nelson Douglas, which I enjoyed. It was very much of his time. And this is a series where she goes into Irene Adler's life. It's like a Sherlock Holmes mystery series, but from Irene Adler's point of view. Next, I went to some little free libraries in Ohio. I found The Daughters of Eerietown by Connie Schultz. This is a historical fiction novel about Cleveland and about the I want to say industrial revolution. No, the industry in the Rust Belt, and specifically in Cleveland in the mid-1900s, so 1930s to 1950s, 60s, which is just something I'm interested in anyway. I love Rust Belt cities, and I love learning about all that history, and it's so interesting. But weirdly, at the used bookstore, the nice little old lady who was was working there suggested this to me, but because it was $4, I didn't want to buy it just on a whim. And then I walked to the Little Free Library and it was sitting in there as well. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy it for that little old lady. And when I come back to Ohio, I'm going to tell her that I read it. That'll be really fun. The next Little Free Library I went to was awesome. I will have a Little Free Library video coming out, but there's just too long to put them all in the same video, you know? But I found Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I've been wanting to read this one. This one kind of had a lot of buzz in the beginning of the year, and then it kind of died off. I honestly don't remember what it's about, but I'm excited that I now own it. I picked up The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. This is a young adult novel, and I think it's like similar maybe to The Water Cure and like Nina LaCour. Like it's a kind of dystopian girls fighting for rights kind of story. But I remember having this on my want to read. When I went and looked, it wasn't there. So I think I took it off because it was YA, but I'm happy to have picked it up. The last book that I found at a Little Free Library was Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. And this I just saw Books and Lala read and she really liked it. It was kind of in my interest anyway because it's a time-hopping women's fiction. So those were the books that I found at the Little Free Library. Then I went to not Beacon's Closet, what is it called? What's the one that are all over? Somebody's Closet. It's like a used clothing store, but it's like more of like an upscale, not a thrift store. It's more like consignment, although it's not actually consignment. I don't know why I can't think of the name, but they had a little tiny stand of books, and I picked up Illuminae, which is the first in the Illuminae files. This is a young adult sci-fi, but it's all mixed media, and people really, really love it. So I thought for $5 for this huge book, it was a pretty good one to pick up. Next, I went to the other location of the bookshelf that I found, which was in a town a little bit north of where I'm staying, and I picked up quite a few books there. I picked up The Rook by Danielle O'Malley. I've seen books like Whoa really like this book, and Meg with Books really like this book. This one I did have on my want to read, but it is super, super long. But Meg with Books said it reads really fast, and it's like, again, another time travel-y, lost memory kind of murder mystery. It reminds me, the premise reminds me a little of one of my all-time favorite books, The Raw Shark Texts, so I was super happy to pick this one up. I found 3 works of poetry that looked really interesting to me. The first was People on a Bridge by Wisława Szymborska. This is a Polish poet, and it is translated by Adam Sierzynowski. I just thought it was interesting. I liked that it had the Hokusai drawing on the front. I'm always interested to read more poetry. Definitely, I'm interested to read translated poetry too, because like, how does that work? I've read a little bit this year. Then I found The Trouble with Poetry and Other Poems by Billy Collins. I read a Billy Collins just a few months ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. He was the American Poet Laureate for a little while, so I'm interested to read more of his. And similarly, I read my first Mary Oliver earlier this year, and I picked up New and Selected Poems, Volume 2 by her for $3. What, you know, like you can't go wrong. So I'm excited to, ew, there's something gross in there. It's like a bug or something. I am excited to read more of Mary Oliver's work. The book that I had was very, very slim, and it was of work that was selected from various other places, which it sounds like this one is too, but it was like a quarter of the size, and it didn't really give me a full feel for Mary Oliver, but so many people who love poetry love her work, so I am excited to read more. Then I found House Made of Dawn by M. Scott Momaday. This is a Native American author, and this is a Native American story. I'm not sure if he's Native American or Native Canadian, First Nations. I'm not quite sure, but I have not read enough works by Indigenous people this year, especially Indigenous to the Americas, but Indigenous to other places as well. And this was on my want to read list, so I was super happy to find that one. I also found Stay With Me by Ayobami Ayadeo. I have heard only good things about this. I think Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot really liked Adebayo's work. I really like this cover as well, so I'm excited for that. The very last book that I picked up was The Loves of João Vicencio by Jose Lundino Vieira. And I don't know anything about this. It was maybe not worth $4 for this tiny hardcover, but it's a translated work as well, and I just thought it looked really good. This is translated by Richard Zenith. Just looked like a really fun one. This is one I might bring with me on the plane. So those are all the books that I have purchased while I was in Ohio. It is quite a few books. It's so many books, in fact, that I can't take them home with me. I'm going to have my friends send them back to me. I was going to do that myself, but I ran out of time. So thank you to my BFF for being so kind and sending these back to me, and thank you for joining me today. Let me know what the last book that you picked up was. Let me know if you bought it or if you found it somewhere, and thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.